Welcome to Greater Good Radio Hawaii, where leaders inspire leaders. Greater Good Radio Hawaii is dedicated to social entrepreneurship. I'm your host, Evan Leong, and with me is my co-host, Carrie Leong.
Today's guest is Walter Kirimitsu, president and proud alumni of St. Louis Hawaii Schools and former appeals court judge for Hawaii. Mr. Kirimitsu is the first non-clergyman to lead St. Louis School in 160 years. Welcome to our show, Walter.
Thank you very much.
How has it been taking over and becoming president for St. Louis Schools?
To put it bluntly, it's been a challenge. It's been there are multiple issues, and it's been a difficult 2.5 years. But I'm finally getting used to the issues and the personnel involved, and so this year is much better than the first 2 years.
What kind of challenges are you dealing with?
Primarily personnel, also faculty or the quality of faculty, fiscal challenges, enrollment. So just about every major issue that a private high school would have.
Like every other company in the world, right?
Like every other company, same
exact
issues,
things,
yeah.
Right? Yeah.
You were on the board of trustees for many years prior to becoming president and taking over. Was it more than what you thought, or was it just a lot harder than you thought?
It turned out to be much more difficult than I thought, because although I served on the board of trustees for about 10 years, at the board level, we're considering policy issues, and we rely a lot on the CEO or the president to give us their report and the status of the school, and we pretty much, unless there's some glaring omissions, we pretty much accept the report of the CEO. So in that respect, when you're on the board, you're kind of flying at about 50,000 feet above sea level, whereas being the head administrator of the school now, we're at ground level, so we see a lot of the grit, a lot of the dirt, and a lot of the issues are much more evident than at the board level.
What made you decide to take this endeavor on at this stage in your life?
Primarily because I'm an alumnus, and I've spent 4 years in high school at St. Louis. And so those 4 years were a real crossroads in my life, where the education at St. Louis really helped me in the rest of my career and so forth. And so I felt that it's time to, give back to the school some of the values that they taught me in the first instance, and also time to contribute back to the school in the form of educating the current students, so that whatever I do will make a difference in the future for these young students.
Did you feel any kind of pressure, being that you're kind of part of history for St. Louis Schools, being the first non-clergyman to lead the school?
I felt a lot of pressure. In fact, the Catholic order that sponsors our school is called the Marianists, and that means the Society of Mary, and they devote their primary focus in adoration of the Mother of Jesus. So Mary is the name of the order, and the Marianists were pretty much about 98% of our faculty consisted of Marianists when I was going to school. Currently, there are no Marianists teaching in our classes. We have 2 Marianists who are counselors, and so when I was being interviewed for the president's position, the Marianist headquarters sent a person to come and interview me one-on-one, just, I guess, to see whether I will carry on the teachings of the Marianist philosophy at the school. And I guess that individual was satisfied, and so I got his approval to go forward with the rest of the interviews.
Prior to being president of St. Louis Schools, from the beginning of your career, you were in law, right? What law school did you attend?
University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, Michigan.
And what made you interested in going into law?
When I was at the University of Hawaii doing my undergraduate work, my major was in Japanese language and literature, so I was in the Arts and Sciences program. So when it came close to my graduation, I found out that I lacked very I lacked any kind of skills, to be employable. And so I thought, I have to proceed on to a master's and probably a PhD if I pursued Japanese language and literature. And so rather than that, I opted to find a professional skill. And law was the one that seemed to be the most desirable for me, and it consistent with what I'm interested in speech, in working with people, etc. So I chose to take the law school entrance exam, and then went on to law school at Michigan.
How was that for you, being Japanese and a minority?
At that time, University of Michigan took several students from each state so that they can be a national law school. So as a result, although there was no formal quota, they took about 2 from Hawaii. And so I fortunately got into the 2 that were selected for that year. I was the only one of 3 Asians that were in my class. So at the University of Hawaii, we're a majority, right? The Asian Americans. Whereas at law school, we're clearly a minority group.
Was it hard for you?
At first, it was difficult because the competition was so stiff. But as you get to know your classmates, and you get to be friends with some of the classmates, it's no different than any other school. Except law school itself was very, very competitive. And so I had to get used to the pace of competition.
Thanks, Walter. We'll hear more about that after the break. Thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned for more on Greater Good Radio.